midnight in Helsinki. Commuters step off the metro, never guessing the platform can seal into a gas-tight bunker in under 10 minutes. In rural Lapland, teenagers swap graduation gowns for camouflage as universal conscription summons the next reserve class. Finland doesn't advertise its readiness. It embeds it in daily life. Beneath coffee bars and saunas, a nation has already sketched its wartime playbook and practiced it again and again for decades. Pinned between the icy Baltic and the taiga that merges into Russia, Finland sits on Europe's most nervous seam. A 1,340-kilometer border traces lonely forests and marshes before ending barely 200 kilometers from St. Petersburg, close enough to hear the rumble of exercises across the line. Swing north and you meet the Arctic, where retreating ice unlocks new shipping lanes and mineral troves coveted by both NATO and Moscow. Swing south and the narrow Gulf of Finland funnels every vessel bound for Tallinn or St. Petersburg past Helsinki's gun-lined islands. Geography alone makes Finland a pressure point. History explains why it refuses to blink. Finland's first line of resilience isn't a wall or a missile battery. It's people. Every Finnish man receives a draft card when he turns 18, choosing either 165, 255, or 347 days of active duty. The system hums with almost Swiss punctuality. New cohorts report each Monday, train with regular Army cadres, and rotate out just as the next batch marches in. By the time recruits hang up their M05 camo, they've fired live rounds, practiced Arctic survival, and drilled the mobilization plan down to which railcar door they'll board in a crisis. Cycle that rhythm across decades, and you get numbers that dwarf the country's 5.6 million population. Roughly 280,000 fresh troops can be fielded in days, and another 620,000 veterans sit in the mobilization pool. 1 in 6 Finns belongs to the wartime order of battle. It's conscription as a civic right, part boot camp, part nation-building seminar, and wholly serious about deterrence. Descend a few meters beneath any Finnish city, and you enter the world's densest warren of civil defense shelters. In Helsinki alone, more than 5,000 hardened chambers, carved from bedrock or poured in reinforced concrete, can house every resident of the capital plus its daytime workforce. Nationwide capacity covers between 60 and 80% of the population, the highest rate on Earth. These shelters are no dusty relics. They moonlight as gyms, libraries, car parks, and ice hockey rinks. Their ventilation shafts sized to scrub chemical agents and their blast doors tested every 5 years. When the alarm app buzzes, municipal crews flick a checklist, shut external valves, overpressure the air system, roll out bunks, extend mobile networks. Within 30 minutes, the same space where children dribble basketballs becomes a subterranean town ready for siege. Under emergency lighting, its life support loop can run for weeks without outside help. Finland has now welded that shelter mindset into its construction code. A law passed in June 2024 states that every new apartment block, no matter how small, must pour a hardened basement rated to withstand artillery overpressure and chemical agents. Developers grumbled about the extra rebar and ventilation gear, but Parliament shrugged. The added cost hovers around 1.5% per square meter, cheaper than retrofitting later. Blueprints now include blast doors alongside bike racks. Drywall contractors leave gaps so residents can snap in folding bunks during an alert. For renters, the change is almost invisible, until the caretaker points out that the recycling room's concrete shell is certified for war. It's regulatory pragmatism distilled. If you can't predict the next crisis, you engineer against it up front. Open your phone in Finland and civil readiness is only a swipe away. In November 2024, the government rolled out a dedicated Preparing for Incidents and Crises hub on Suomi.fi, the same portal used to file taxes or renew a passport. Tap the tab marked Military Conflict and blunt checklists appear: stock, at least 72 hours of water, tinned food and prescription drugs; memorize 2 routes to the nearest shelter, learn CPR and how to shut off district heating. The site links to local first aid courses, prints QR codes for fridge magnets, and reminds parents to slip favorite toys into go bags. Bureaucracy becomes survival muscle memory, digital instructions for the moment the real world goes analog. Finnish officials skip euphemisms. On Suomi.fi, the military conflict menu doesn't talk about disruptions. It says bombardment and occupation outright. One click opens a blackout checklist: candles, batteries, manual can openers. Another explains where to queue for soup kitchens if card payments collapse. A third details living under foreign control: hide ID papers, avoid collaboration, note troop movements for partisans. Media campaigns echo the same plain Finnish: hope for peace, pack for war. It's public policy delivered in barracks tone, clarity prized over comfort, because in Finland, sugarcoating is seen as a hazard, not a kindness. Finland's blunt posture is etched by history's scars. In 1939, Stalin demanded bases on Finnish soil. Helsinki refused, and the Red Army rolled in. Outgunned 3-1, Finnish ski troops slowed Soviet columns with Molotov cocktails and white camouflaged guerrilla raids. They lost the Winter War but preserved independence at the cost of 10% of their land. Barely a year later came the Continuation War. Trenches dug through the same pine forests until an uneasy 1944 armistice forced Finland to pay reparations, yet keep its flag. The lesson: survival hinges on self-reliance. During the Cold War, neutrality was Finland's price for sovereignty. Leaders tiptoed between NATO exercises and Soviet suspicion while quietly expanding conscription and bunkers. Civilians practiced blackout drills under the bland label varautuminen, preparedness. By the time the USSR collapsed in 1991, total defense culture was knitted into schools, factories, even church basements. What outsiders saw as Nordic stoicism was really institutional muscle memory. When geography offers no depth and allies stay uncertain, you mobilize the whole nation, or you don't last the winter. April 4th, 2023 broke an 80-year habit of strategic solitude. Russia's full-scale assault on Ukraine vaporized the last political blockers, and Finnish polls shot from 20% pro-NATO to almost 80% in 3 months. Parliament fast-tracked the bid. Turkey and Hungary bargained, but Helsinki's credibility, earned in winter war snow and modern tank battalions, eventually closed the deal. Membership flipped Finland's deterrence math overnight. The 1,340-kilometer frontier became a direct NATO border, pushing Article 5's umbrella deep into the boreal forest. For Moscow, that means any thrust at a Finnish radar mast calls down Washington, Berlin, and London by treaty. For Helsinki, the pact is insurance, not outsourcing. Conscription stays, shelters stay. Only the radio frequencies change. Now synced with Norwegian F-35s and Patriot batteries rotating through Lapland. Lone wolf no more, Finland kept its claws and gained a pack. Total defense in Finland is less a program than the default setting of society. The doctrine, Kokones Turvallisuus, splices 8 ministries with municipalities, NGOs, and businesses into a single crisis lattice. Every schoolchild rehearses shelter drills each term. Getting a driving license now requires a first aid certificate. Supermarkets sign contracts to keep reserve grain and diesel. Telecoms run quarterly blackout tests, and even the National Orchestra rotates musicians through voluntary defense courses. Opinion surveys find 9 in 10 Finns ready to fight if the homeland is attacked, the highest rate in Europe. Preparation is not niche prepper culture, but mainstream civics. Defend the country, keep the lights on, help the neighbor next door. Picture Finland in mid-2025. Each Monday, another intake marches through garrison gates, keeping the active duty pool near 22,000 even as last week's class returns to civilian life. Yet their uniforms stay in the closet, name tape sewn on, ready for recall. Beneath the cities, shelter drills now double as community events. Parents fold bunk beds while kids practice switching air filters from park mode to NBC. The June 2024 hardened basement rule has already added hundreds of new safe rooms. Property ads flaunt blast door ratings the way they once boasted floor heating. Every household has skimmed, or at least downloaded, the Suomi.fi Preparing for Incidents and Crises guide pushed to phones last November. Supermarkets print its 72-hour shopping list as a loyalty card coupon, and pharmacies bundle first aid kits with CPR-class vouchers. On highway billboards, the Defense Forces remind drivers of their mobilization group and rail assembly point. QR codes jump straight to a personalized call-up page authenticated with bank ID. NATO emblems appear on joint exercise posters, but the message stays Finnish. Readiness is everyone's day job. Threat vectors surround Finland like compass points on a storm map. Southwest lies the Baltic, a puddle-deep sea where Russian and NATO warships can trade radar locks within minutes. A misread sonar ping near the Gulf's narrow throat could bottleneck half of Europe's shipping. Due south, any clash over Estonia or the Suwałki Gap would turn Finland into NATO's emergency runway and logistics lifeline overnight. Swing north and the Arctic melts into a new battlefield of ice-free passages and seabed cables. Whoever controls Lapland's airspace controls that polar shortcut. Even inside the border, hybrid strikes loom. GPS jamming on air routes, cyber attacks on district heat grids, swarms of drone incursions testing radar seams. In Helsinki's war colleges, these scenarios aren't theory. They're Tuesday's tabletop drill. Finland calls its posture a lock that keeps trouble outside. Kremlin outlets frame it as bayonets at the border. At home, 8 citizens in 10 say deterrence buys peace. Only a sliver of academics worry the hardened basement law normalizes war. Brussels officials praise Finland as NATO's gold standard, yet some German columnists fear an arms spiral on the Baltic Rim. Deterrent or provocation? The answer depends on whether you stand behind the blast door or in front of it. From conscripts to concrete, Finland shows that resilience is built before the siren, not after. If this glimpse of Fortress Finland opened your eyes, smash like, hit subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover another story.